Hello guys, another nap for the baby. Little baby Rocky's getting some sleep in, which means another chance for me to chat Arsenal with you. Today I want to talk about two of the names being mentioned most frequently in relation to Arsenal and the summer transfer market. They are Declan Rice, of course, and Moises Caicedo of Brighton. And I think what I'm interested in talking about is whether or not it's a case of either or here for Arsenal. Could Arsenal do both these deals? Neither will be cheap. We know that much. In January, Arsenal went for Caicedo. Negotiations with Brighton broke down. They couldn't find an agreement. Brighton were none too happy with the way Arsenal approached those talks. I think he obviously signed a new contract there on improved terms. They're going to demand a premium for him this summer. Declan Rice, well, he's an England international. That always adds seemingly tens of millions on the price tag of any player. West Ham's captain, they're not going to want to let him go without a fight. I believe he's got one more year left, and then they've got an option for an extra year. So they will feel they've got a strongish negotiating stand there, even if it's widely accepted that he is going to leave the club. So these are both players, I think, where you'd be talking about the best part of £100 million. And in salary terms, I would imagine Rice would probably come in on more money, but again, it would be pretty hefty. Could Arsenal do both these deals? Well, the first thing for me to say is that I don't know. And I've been surprised in each of the past few summers by how big Arsenal have gone in the transfer market, probably going all the way back to 2019. You know, in terms of the spending, since the Kroenkes had full ownership of the club, it has exceeded my expectations. And we have seen this brilliant resurgence at Arsenal, but an important part of that has been how much money we've invested in the transfer market. So with the added revenue from the Champions League, maybe it's not impossible. I have to say my instincts are that it's probably a stretch too far. That the best part of 200 million on two players doesn't feel like something Arsenal would do, almost particularly because it's in the same area of the pitch. And it's interesting, you know, I've seen the case made, if you get Rice and you get Caicedo, you solve your midfield problems for years to come. And in some ways that's true. You know, you replace, say, Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey, immediate heirs to both of those players. Stylistically, you can see a match. Character-wise, you can see a match. From that perspective, it does make some sense. One of the things that I think when I look at this is, if you were to sign Rice and Caicedo this summer, would it solve all your midfield problems? And I'm not sure that it does. Because when I looked at Arsenal's midfield for the vast majority of last season, say the first 75%, which went rather well, the upgrade opportunity or the development opportunity looked to me to be in that left 8 position, in terms of finding a player who is more attack-minded, more naturally gifted in the final third than Granit Xhaka, perhaps. Now, that's easier said than done, because Xhaka actually had a brilliant season, but Arteta told Xhaka that himself. You know, that's the way I see this position going. That's the evolution. Can you meet that standard? He did for 12 months, but now it looks like he's about to go. So I've always thought, really, that what's required in midfield is to bring in a holding player who can play at the base of the midfield and someone who can play in more advanced areas. Now, can Rice and or Caicedo do those things? Undoubtedly. They're both very versatile players. Rice has played centre-back, holding midfield, box-to-box. We've seen Caicedo at right-back. I have no doubt he can play further forward in midfield too. I think I remember him do that a bit during one of his early appearances for the club at the Emirates Stadium a little while ago now. But I still feel a bit like you're buying two premium players for the same spot. I know there's been a lot of talk about Rice, you know, could he play number 8 as well as number 6? Yes, he could. But I think if you speak to Declan Rice's coaches, the people who work with him closely, maybe even the player himself, I don't know, I think his best position is at the base of midfield. It's where he's played consistently for England. And I think it's where he provides what Arsenal need most. He's a brilliant ball winner. He reads situations well. I think defensively, he is top-notch in terms of snuffing out the counter-attacks, regaining possession, starting things circulating again. I think that's where he really excels. And there are games where you might want someone in a more advanced area to be doing that, but most matches in this Arsenal team, I think, his fit will be at the base of the midfield, and I think he'll make that position his own. That's just the way I see it. And then if you take that as a given, then could Caicedo be your number 8, your barnstorming number 8? Maybe. Could it be the other way around with Caicedo as a 6 and Rice as an 8? Again, maybe. But I just wonder if there's not something different required in midfield. Mason Mount is going to join Manchester United. That seems to be his choice, and it's now a question of can United negotiate a fee with Chelsea. But he's a player that Arsenal were mentioned in dispatches about. He's a player they obviously admire, Mikel Arteta likes. His choice ultimately has been to go to United, and I'm not sure Arsenal came in particularly hard for Mason Mount, but it's something, his availability was something they were aware of and was discussed. And I just wonder if a midfielder more of that ilk, more of that type is required as a complement to one of Rice or Caicedo. You know, do we need, and I'm not diminishing the other aspects of their game, but their destructive ability, their ability to win the ball, but then do we need someone who is more creative, more of a goal threat? Someone maybe a bit more like Ilkay Gundogan, who has of course been linked with a free transfer move. It would be a short-term solution, but it would undoubtedly be a solution. I mean, his form in the last few months of this season has been sensational. Anyone who watched the FA Cup final will attest to that. Even if it's not him, perhaps even better if it's not him, can we find a younger player who is more in that mould? It could be Rice one day, but I just think that wouldn't be using him to the best of his abilities. Have we got that player internally? Well, Mikel Arteta may think so. He may consider that Fabio Vieira could be our Gundogan. He may consider that Emile Smith-Rowe could be that man. I was speaking about this with Andrew last night on the Arscast Extra. You know, Emile Smith-Rowe in central midfield does sometimes feel like an awkward fit, but then think about the role as it was under Granit Xhaka. What did it involve? Runs into the channels, movement off the ball, arriving into the box late. I think Emile Smith-Rowe can do all those things. Xhaka did also provide a certain physicality, a certain defensive nous experience, which Smith-Rowe would find more difficult. But the attacking part of that job, he could do. So maybe if you feel you have the player internally who could fill that position, in Vieira or Smith-Rowe or somebody else, Bukayo Saka maybe could be an option. But he's so good on the right wing, I don't really see him being moved at this point in time. If you feel you have that player in the squad, maybe you do bring in Rice and Caicedo and you say, well, we've covered the defensive part of midfield for the next 5 years. We can start with one. We can play one at right back at one. If we want, we can play one at centre half in emergency. If we've got a big game, we feel we need more solidity in midfield, say at the Etihad, we can play them both and Martin Odegaard ahead, have that bit more security, that bit more solidity. Yeah, it's possible, but does it give you the most flexibility, the most options, the best balance for next season? Personally, I'm not convinced it does. I think it should be one of Rice or Caicedo and a more attack-minded midfield player. Someone closer in style to Martin Odegaard. Not quite Martin Odegaard. I think Gundogan is the best comparison because he's someone who can do that from deeper, who can arrive late, but who can also provide stability, security in the middle of the pitch. And if that player's not out there, maybe that guy on a free transfer becomes an option. I'm not sure I see him leaving City, where he's got such a great relationship with the club, with the fans, for a club who've now become a rival. I think joining Arsenal from City 12 months ago was a very different thing because they didn't take us seriously at that point in time. They have to now. If it's going to be one of Rice or Caicedo, personally, I would edge for Rice. I just think that the void Granit Xhaka leaves in terms of leadership, character, presence in the dressing room, I think Rice fills that. He's the West Ham captain. He knows a lot of the English players. He immediately fits into the core. He gets on well with Saka, gets on well with Ramsdale. It's a good gang for him to step into. Came through at youth level with the likes of Eddie Nketiah. Arsenal's just a great fit for him. He's good mates with Jack Wilshere. It makes a ton of sense. Caicedo is a terrific player, really good. I just think that Arsenal, at this point in time, require certain almost off-field things from this signing if Xhaka is going. And I feel like Rice, and I hope it's not just English bias making me say this, I think Rice is more equipped to fill that void. I have always felt and continue to feel that Caicedo will end up at Chelsea. I think that the fact they pulled out of the deal for Ugarte, and wow, what a story that is. Read Adam Crafton in The Athletic about why exactly he's ended up at PSG. Very, very interesting, and tells you a bit more about some of Chelsea's transfer dealings. The fact they pulled out of Ugarte means I think that Caicedo makes even more sense for them. They were on his case in January. They were in touch with Brighton. Crucially, they didn't ruin their relationship with Brighton with unsolicited, unwelcome bids. I can see them striking a deal potentially. So that would be my prediction of how it'll play out. Mount to United, Caicedo to Chelsea, Rice to Arsenal. And wow, what a fun debate that will be over the course of the next 12 months about who got the best of it. I'm not taking anything for granted there. Bayern Munich interested in Rice. United have been mentioned as potentially being interested in Rice. There may be more twists and turns to come. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Listen, I wouldn't say no to Rice and Caicedo. And if there was a world in which we could get that plus a more creative or more attacking midfield player, I'd welcome it. But if you told me I could have two midfield signings, I'd want one at the base and one as a more attacking number 8. Someone who evolves the role that Granit Xhaka had for us this season. But what do you think? Let me know. Do subscribe, guys. I'm glad you're enjoying the videos. It's a pleasure doing them. 12 minutes. He's still asleep. This is bonus time. I'll speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.